Hello and welcome back to Purple and Gold Zone, Season 2, Episode 2. I'm your host. You already know we are ready to talk some purple and gold basketball. Unfortunately, we can't talk 2-0 like we talked. Hopefully, we would be able to last episode. It's okay though. We're 1-1 on the week. That was okay. We beat the Clippers in an epic game. Dropped a game to the Magic we'll briefly talk about, but we've got a fun show today, a couple different segments to go over. Just a little reminder for my other shows, the Connor and Heffernan show you can find on this same channel. We have a new episode coming out either this Friday or this Saturday, so make sure to tune into that. And then any fans of Well Beyond the Arc on the Yankee and the Brit, that show will be returning next week as well. More information will be released on that soon, but let's get into some Lakers basketball. Let's get right into it, guys. So we're not even going to pay too much time on that Lakers versus Magic game that finished up last week, because unfortunately I was very close in my prediction. I said 104 to 120. And it was very close to that, but unfortunately the Magic were the team that had the 120, and the Lakers were the team that could not even get 104. Very ineffective, very not great game. Super down point, but the good news was we had the Miami Heat on Monday. And the Miami Heat were probably thinking the same thing, because first and foremost, we have a finals rematch of the last few years. Yes, it was the bubble. I don't care. That's still the finals. We have a finals rematch. We have a team that just made the NBA Finals and lost to the Nuggets. We have a team that just made the Western Conference Finals and lost to the Nuggets. So this was a good matchup. Honestly, this was a really solid matchup. This was not just two teams going and playing. This was a real matchup. And the Lakers showed up in Miami and did something that we have struggled to do this season, and that is start the game on a good note. The Lakers have been a team that has been inconsistent, whether it's the first or the second half, for the last 4 to 5 seasons. But I will say, this season, we seem to be a team that's more inefficient and ineffective and very all over the place in the first half, and then we figure it out in the second, which I will say, it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish. So we have been able to win some games like that. The other way, absolutely not. You cannot win the first half and lose the second in an NBA game. That's the end of that game. So it's a lot better than what it's been. But this game, we actually started on the best note we have started the entire season. This was our best first quarter the whole season. We started on a great note, and it looked like we were really on our way. What was the first thing that happened that was really bad? Anthony Davis goes down in the second with a hip injury. Leaves, comes back, and then goes down again, and then leaves for the rest of the game. Very ineffective stat-wise. That's obviously because of his injury and because he was going in and out of the game. What I do want to say is this. At this point, Anthony Davis is what Anthony Davis is. A absolute top 10 big man in the league. Has the skill to be a top 20 all-time, but he's very injury prone. And what else do we know about Anthony Davis? We know that he can't box. I'm just playing. Listen, I don't know. That video was perplexing to me. I'm going to be honest. Because I don't box, and I think I got better form than that. But I'm also not as tall as he is, and, maybe he's throwing a little more around than me, I guess. I don't know. Maybe that's what it is. But anyways, he's been trying to get healthier. He's been working on his efficiency and his health. And it shows because he has already been confirmed to be coming back for the next game. As of what I just read this morning, he is confirmed to be coming back, and he's not going to miss any time. So that is a good thing, because I feel like no matter what the injury is, if he's bouncing back that quick, that shows that he really has been working on his health and working on his longevity. And that's what we need, because I'm going to be honest, he is the best Laker by a mile. Don't let LeBron James dropping 30 points fool you. That is incredible. My goodness, LeBron is giving this his all, and I really appreciate that. But Anthony Davis is the best player by far on both sides of the ball. If we are winning games, we need Anthony Davis. It's no secret. It's not a secret in the slightest. My one concern about Anthony Davis and his health is if he does go down, which he's not, it does not appear like he is, but if he goes down for, even give him a couple of weeks to a month, Christian Wood has been playing fantastically alongside him. And I think he's been really learning a lot and building a lot defensively from Anthony Davis and his guidance. But that also, and maybe it's just also the coaches we have are incredible. Shout out to the Lakers coaching staff that have probably just done a better job than that Mavs coaching staff did. Honestly, if I'm being honest, we're the best. But anyways, well, you know what? I can't really say that because of the back-to-back losses. But we do have a very, very talented staff, and I feel like Christian Wood is growing as a player on both sides of the ball. But with Anthony Davis down, if he does go down at some point in the season for a long amount of time, that is extremely concerning. We don't have to worry about that right now. So the good news is Anthony Davis is slated to be back in. Hip injury. Yes, he did look like he was in a lot of pain, and it looked way worse than it is, but I do think he is going to be back, which is the good news. The second thing that lost us the game is if you're watching the video, you can see the stat line. If you're listening, I'll say it for you right now. When we have our role players and none of our role players scored 10, even scored 10. Prince didn't score 10, Reddish didn't score 10, and Christie didn't score 10. Christian Wood is not a role player. D'Angelo Russell is not a role player, and Austin Reeves is not a role player. By the way, Austin Reeves, as many turnovers as he had, did finish with a decent stat line. So we're gonna exclude him from this talk. D'Angelo Russell did not play great. Christian Wood did not play great. But Cam Reddish, Max Christie, and Prince were a different kind of bad. What I will say is this. You don't expect too much more out of a player like Christie that hasn't worked his way into our lineup that much. But Reddish and Prince, we picked those players up for efficiency and for domination on especially that offensive side of the ball. We are looking for outside shots. We are looking for efficiency, and I'm not seeing that. Specifically from Reddish, who missed a game-winning shot. Now, fast forward, we have a terrible third. Unfortunately, spoiler alert, we lost this game in the third because the fourth, we woke back up, specifically the last couple of minutes, but we died in the third, did not look alive, and we could not recover. And that was the end of that. Seriously, that would have been that. And we get a chance, being down 107-108, which was the final score, by the way. We have a chance to win it. Not to go to overtime to win this game, because we're only down by 1. So if you foul us, unless we go 1 out of 2, we're winning this game. LeBron gets the ball, drives it in. I was expecting a shot. I really was. I thought he was going to go up, take the foul, or get a clear shot because they were trying to avoid the foul. He kicks it out to Cam Reddish, who bricks a game-winning shot. What I'm going to say is this. LeBron James played phenomenal last night. 30 points. He is playing a brand of basketball that might get some people that don't consider him the GOAT to consider him more of the GOAT than they did before, because what he's doing in year, 20? At his age, or year 21? I don't even remember. I've lost track. That's how many years he's been in the league. What he is doing at his age, though, what he is doing at age 38 is ridiculous. And he is playing an all-star, top 10 player in the league level of basketball. And I respect that, and I love that, and that's exciting because that shows me that he's giving this his all. He really does care about the Lakers making it back to where they need to make it back to. That's what this shows me. So it gives me a lot of confidence for our team and also just for him, for his final time as a Laker, no matter what that is. Now, what I will say is, if you remember the Western Conference Finals, LeBron did not kick it out. He took a shot and missed, and then we got swept. Not going to blame it on Bron because a lot of people would criticize him for kicking the ball out. The only person that was really open was Anthony Davis against the Nuggets. And Anthony Davis is not the most consistent mid to deep shooter. He can shoot a mid-range really well. He has a pretty silky mid-range, and he does have a decent three-point, but it's not consistent enough maybe to kick it out. And I think LeBron was fully expecting a foul when he went up. This time, LeBron did the exact opposite, and he kicks it out to someone instead of taking the shot. Had I made an episode of Purple and Gold Zone after the Lakers lost, oh my, guys, it would have been rough. I would have had to do a lot of takes. There would have been a lot of crying. No, I'm just kidding. But it would have been rough. It probably would have been my worst episode because I would have just been roasting the Lakers and just yelling the whole time. So I'm glad I didn't do it. Something I would have said, though, was, why didn't you pass to Anthony Davis? Why didn't you kick it out? It's hard because it could go both ways, and that's what this shows. But the one thing I will say about this is Cam Reddish was not the guy to kick that to. I'm sorry. The pass itself had its own level of risk to it. LeBron completed it because he can complete some absolute darts. But even the pass itself had its own level of risk to it. And so to see that, I was, from the get-go, that was like, okay, that's a really risky pass to a really risky person to take that shot. In Cam Reddish's defense, I mean, he tried to line it up and take it, and it's not like he airballed, but it just was not the shot. It wasn't the person to take that shot. I think LeBron would have gotten fouled. If I'm being completely honest, I think LeBron would have gotten fouled because, one, it's LeBron, and that does exist. It really does. And two, it's the regular season. I truly feel like they would have called a foul, even if it was a stretch. And there is a way to review that. There is all of that, so maybe that would have still gone in their favor. But in this instant, I do think LeBron should have shot it. And in the other instant, I think LeBron should have passed it. So it can go both ways. And that is the unfortunate part of having a legend like LeBron on your team that has really not had many clutch moments. He's had some clutch moments, but he's also had his fair share of non-clutch moments, especially in moments where they matter. I'm not going to say he's not a clutch player or that goes against his legacy as a Laker or as a player, but you do see a pattern, especially as a Laker, of him not hitting certain clutch situations. So it is interesting. I would still give that to LeBron 9 times out of 10 like that to at least take it in. And it's not his fault that Cam Reddish couldn't hit that shot, but it was an interesting finish to that game. We fought, we were alive. After a really bad third, we came alive, and even, honestly, not a great fourth, we still came alive and pushed for that finish, especially with Anthony Davis being out and some other players not playing super consistently. It wasn't an awful game. But unfortunately, that makes us 3-4, and that pushes us even farther from being where we need to be as a team. The good news is it does look like we are gaining some of our depth back in the coming days and weeks, and that will help quite a bit. But we are going to look specifically at the rest of the games that are happening this week, and specifically we have our first tournament game. We're just going to kind of briefly talk about that and what that means for the Lakers, and we'll just go into this week a little bit and hope that we can bounce back. Let's get right into it. We are going to look forward at the rest of the Lakers week, going beyond that loss to the Heat. First of all, we have the Houston Rockets, Wednesday, November 8th. The Rockets are coming off of a really nice win over the Sacramento Queens, and they do look pretty good. We are not in an alternative universe. Dillon Brooks is leading the league in three-pointer percentage right now at 56, if you can believe that. Obviously, I don't believe that's going to remain, but so far he is hitting all of his shots. Houston is a team that I think they're going to do a lot better than people believe. I don't think they're going to be a team that makes even the play-in, but I do think they're going to be a team that might just miss it. I think they're going to be a team that shows that they have built something and that they are really building something with those players that they've picked up, even Dillon Brooks. As much as I want to clown on him, even Dillon Brooks, I do think they're building something, and I think we're going to see that progress this season. But I don't have us losing. To be completely honest with you guys, I have this being a decently close matchup, but I do think that the Lakers will show up, and the biggest factor is going to be Anthony Davis. If Anthony Davis comes back healthy like it sounds like he's going to be, I think he's going to dominate. He is going to be the difference maker. There is nobody on that Rockets team that can stop Anthony Davis. So if Anthony Davis comes back swinging like I think he will, prediction right now, 26 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 blocks. That's the type of game he's going to have. I don't know if those are going to be the exact stats, but that is the type of game Anthony Davis is going to come back with. I've got us winning by 5, 110 to 105, and going 1-1 on the week. And then that brings us to Friday, and then that also brings us to our first official in-season tournament game. If you're like me, you had no idea what this was until literally last week. I mean, I knew what it was. Like, I knew it was happening, but I didn't really, other than the commercial on TV with the Sopranos star, that's really the only thing I knew about it. I didn't really understand the format, so I did do my research last week. And what I will say is the in-season tournament obviously is a money grab for the NBA. And most major changes in leagues like this are any additional thing is just a money grab, but it also does add a little bit to the season. It adds a little bit to the fans of teams that might not be able to see their teams compete for another championship. And it also gives fans something to root for earlier. It keeps the season alive, and it kind of starts that excitement earlier than it usually would. I think they're trying to bring more viewers in and kind of ramp up the intensity of the entire season. That part I really, really do like. Something else I will say is, obviously, the players and the coaches are also playing for something because there's a very sizable bonus. So this entire concept of the in-season tournament kind of benefits all parties involved. I really think that is the overall view of this. My overall opinion of it is it's great. I kind of wish it was a little bit later in the season, not super late, not after the All-Star break, but more like the end of December or beginning of January. I just kind of wish it was a little bit later or lasted a little bit longer. It ends within the first/beginning of the second week of December, so it is only about a month and some change. But let me explain for people that don't understand. Every team is broken up into a group of 5, and then you are in what's called the group stage, which means you will have 4 games against the other opponents in your group stage, and whatever record you have with determines on if you move on. So within those 4 games, if you are 3-1 or 4-0, those will be the teams that I assume will be the ones that will move on. But again, we might see some 2-2 teams thrown in there depending on the league. But for the most part, I'm assuming we're going to see 3-1 and 4-0 teams moving on to that single elimination round. The Lakers group stage is the Trailblazers, the Suns, the Grizzlies, and the Jazz. So to be completely honest with you, I am really happy with who is in our group stage. Every single one of those games is absolutely winnable. Looking at our games this week, though, obviously the only group stage match we have is against the Suns on Friday. This is what I'm going to say about the Suns. They have so much talent on their roster, but injuries have already plagued them early on. This might be the earliest that injuries have plagued that Suns team in recent memory. Since they've gotten Booker and started to gain some legitimacy, I think this is the earliest that they have been missing their key pieces. And it's not Chris Paul and Devin Booker anymore. Now we've got Bradley Beal and Devin Booker that are out, and an aging Kevin Durant who can still hoop and put up absolute stats. But I don't think you want to rely on him as much as they're having to rely on him. So, hot take right here and right now, I don't think the Lakers are losing against the Suns. I think the Lakers are going to beat the Suns and go 2-0 in that series this year. And that would put us at 2-1 for the week and 1-0 in our group stage. And then our final game of the week is going to be on Sunday, November 12th. It is against the Trailblazers, who are in our group stage, but this is a game that does not count towards the group stage match. Our group stage match against the Trailblazers is on the 17th of November. So I really like it that we have a chance to play them really almost an entire week in advance. We get a really good look at that team before we have to play them for that game that counts in the group stage. And I like that because 2 reasons. One, it gives us a chance to, if we do drop the game to them, which, spoiler alert, I don't think we're going to, but if we did, it wouldn't count towards anything for the in-season tournament. And 2, the Portland Trailblazers are actually a team that I think is going to be another Houston Rockets type team. They don't make the in-season tournament, but they, not the in-season tournament. They don't make the play-in, but they do make a big stride from where they were last year. The Trailblazers did not have a successful season, even with Dame. Dame was not in for most of the season. I'm not blaming Dame, but they did not have a successful season last season. Houston was one of the worst, if not the worst teams in the league by far. So I think they're going to make huge strides. I don't think that means playoffs or play-in, but I do think that means we're going to see them be not much below of being a 500 team. My guess is that the Rockets and the Trailblazers finish somewhere between 11 and 13, but not with poor records that make them look like those teams. I think they're going to compete until the end of the season and maybe even make a push for a 500 record. The Trailblazers do lack depth as well as pieces that can shut down the Lakers' stars, but we need to see players like D'Angelo Russell wake up and have a little more consistency because we need our guards. This is a guard-driven league. As big as having Anthony Davis in and healthy is going to be, we need our guards to show up and be more consistent, not only with the shots they're taking, but with their decisions with the basketball. We need to see D'Angelo Russell show up. If D'Angelo Russell does not handle the basketball better in really either of these, any three of the matchups I've talked about, we're going to be in trouble. D'Angelo Russell is a talented player, and he's had a couple of games already for the Lakers this season that have looked good. More than that, though, he's had games that have looked bad. D'Angelo Russell needs to clean it up. Austin Reeves needs to clean up the turnovers. We need to see less turnovers. A team like the Trailblazers, while we have more talent, if we are turning the ball over, it doesn't matter. They will use that every single time and score. They are a fast, younger team that looks like they could become a team even with Dame leaving. So I still have the Lakers winning, but they need to clean it up if they want to secure that win. I've got the Lakers winning by 10, 190 in a lower scoring matchup, and that gives us 3-1 on the week and moves us in a really, really, really solid direction, in the right direction, because those last two losses we need to clean up. We need to look forward, move on, and clean up specifically our offensive mistakes. Now, before we close and go into our final segment of episode 2, I've got something to tell you guys. I want to hold myself accountable for my right and wrong picks this season. So, at the end of the season, at the end of the regular season, if I have more picks, more predictions, and I probably won't predict games every episode, but every episode I predicted a game. If I have more incorrect than I have correct, I am going to get a Celtics tattoo. And I promise you that. You guys will have to hold me to it. But I already know a couple people listening to this will definitely hold me to that. So please hold me to that. At the end of the season, if I have more picks incorrect than correct, got to put the Celtics tattoo on. I will say currently I'm sitting at 1-1, but this is a big week. This is a 4-game week, so there's a lot riding on this. So come on, guys, don't let me down. But anyways, moving on to our final segment of the episode. Welcome to our final segment, which is my pick for the top 5 best defensive Lakers of all time. Let me know in the comments if you guys agree with my list. Coming in at number 5 for my top 5 best defensive Lakers of all time list is Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis absolutely belongs on this list for what he has been able to do for the Lakers when he has been healthy. Unfortunately, because of injury, we have not been able to see consistent Anthony Davis the entire season from beginning to end, other than the championship run. But when we did see him, he was averaging 2.3 blocks per game and 1.5 steals per game. Ever since that, he has averaged at least over 1.5 blocks per game for the Lakers, even in his less active seasons when he has been injured. And in his last playoff appearance, he averaged 3.1, a career high 3.1 blocks per game, as well as 1.4 steals per game in the 2023 NBA playoffs. So Anthony Davis absolutely belongs on this list. In his first and most healthy season with the Lakers, he was also on the NBA All-Defensive First. Coming in at number 4 is Lakers legend Shaquille O'Neal. Shaq dominated the paint in his time as a Laker, and not only was that on the offensive side, he dominated the defensive side as well, and that showed in his numbers and in his consistency. In their 4 years in a row that they went to the finals with him under helm, he was all-defensive second team 3 out of 4 of those seasons. And not only was he all-defensive second team 3 out of 4 of those seasons, he was averaging over 2 blocks per game consistently during the regular seasons, as well as keeping that alive during the playoffs. And within their championship run, within their three-peat, their first season he averaged 2.4 blocks per game in the playoffs, the second 2.4, and the third 2.5. Within their three-peat, he never averaged under 2.4 blocks per game, showing his consistency and his efficiency as a defensive player. He was a staple on that team, and without him shutting down some of those high-level and high-volatile players that would drive down the lane and do whatever it took to score, without him being there ready to shut those players down, the Lakers would not have won a three-peat. Coming at number 3 is legendary Lakers big man Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Kareem is much remembered for his offense, as he once held the scoring record until current Laker LeBron broke that. But he was also a defensive staple for that 80s run. He was a 5-time champion with the Los Angeles Lakers, and that was heavily due to the defensive effort that team made. They were showtime on offense, but they were also very, very tough to play on defense, and Kareem was a big part of that, specifically in their first title, as he averaged 3.4 blocks a game during the regular season, but he was very consistent during every single title run. He averaged over 1.5 blocks per game, and then he always would come alive and make sure to be defensively active in the playoffs. He used his wingspan to also be extremely effective with steals, and he was Coming in at number 2 is legendary Lakers shooting guard Michael Cooper. Michael Cooper was the key defensive piece of the 80s run. He helped win 5 titles for the Lakers in the 80s, and it was very much because of him and his defense. He was a staple of defense, and his defense was absolutely the reason that this team was so successful throughout the regular season and the playoffs. He was the 1987 Defensive Player of the Year, and he was a 5-time All-Defensive First Team, as well as 3-time All-Defensive Second Team. All of this was with the Los Angeles Lakers. He had all of his defensive success with the Lakers, and he was a player that could not only break up passes and break up plays, he was also able to tip very many shots and get in players' faces and do things that a lot of other shooting guards were not able to do, and that is why he is comfortably number 2 on this list. Coming in at number 1 is legendary Laker Kobe Bryant. Kobe is here because of his longevity, but also his 9-time All-Defensive First Team and 3-time All-Defensive Second Team awards do not help either. He never won Defensive Player of the Year, but his longevity and who he was guarding in the playoffs, in the regular season, game in and game out, he guarded some legendary guards and was a very, very good defensive opponent and would hold very many players to very low margins. Kobe Bryant was a great defensive player. A lot of fans will point out that he had most of his defensive success earlier on, but I will say that actually he was a very consistent, and up until his second to last season, he was averaging 1.3 steals per game. He was able to break up plays, break up passes. He was very smart. His IQ was very high, and he was just a very athletic and very defensive player who had a lot of longevity, and he would come alive during the playoffs and very much, especially early in that three-peat, would help break up a lot of situations, and defense was one of the staples and highlights of that three-peat. So Kobe Bryant absolutely belongs at that number 1 spot. Well, guys, that brings us to an end of another episode of Purple and Gold Zone. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you guys next time.